so you are in the third wind tunnel in Dallara's history. The first one, which was also the first wind tunnel with a moving belt in Italy, was just below Giampaolo Dallara's house, next door to where now we build the Dallara Stradale. Then we built a 40% wind tunnel, and then we built this one here, which we opened up in 2008, which is our existing wind tunnel with 50% model scale models. And here we develop all our racing cars, all the cars that we do, or aerodynamics that we do as a consultancy to our clients, and obviously the Dallara Stradale, which we will see built in the factory next door later on today.
This is so cool.
Here you can see a bit of history of what was aerodynamics in Dallara. The first wind tunnel was small, and the wind tunnel models, these are original models of the mid-80s, late 80s, were made out of wood, handmade out of wood. Then here we started, and you can see a DTM Audi, we started doing wind tunnel models, bigger scale, a lot of carbon fiber, used also in the wind tunnel model built. And now instead, as you see the Stradale model, we use extensively 3D printing, which allows us to iterate more quickly, do more evolutions of body shapes, more complex body shapes, which we design, build and test in a very short time span, and able to perform more results per unit time of wind tunnel.
So then this was like for the first couple generation.
This was the first generation wind tunnel, handmade. Then the second generation wind tunnel we don't have here. We'll see it in the academy. 40% scale models, and then we went to 50% scale models.
Amazing.
And this building is thought as a place where we do the development for our cars, but mainly we work for consultancies. So we do aerodynamics for third parties. So there are, every door is a model shop where we prepare the wind tunnel models for the clients. So every door has limited access, and you can't enter if you're not part of that project, and you might have 10 or so projects working together at the same time. And then through the central door, you go to the wind tunnel itself, which is a test room where you fit the wind tunnel model, test it, change the parts, come down, put the next model inside.
And then you're not allowed to go in if the certain model is in
absolutely.
there. And you're not a part of that project.
If you're working on project A and project B is in the tunnel, you don't go to the tunnel. You only go to the model shop.
No industrial escalation.
No, well, obviously we try and don't have overlays of similar products, but that comes with the job, let's say. So you saw what we do. We can go and see how we build the parts.
Okay.
Okay. And this is my baby because I designed this and managed it for 10 years. Okay, so this is where we build most of the components of the wind tunnel model. The wetted components, let's say, are built here. And behind you, you can see a machine working. You create a three-dimensional component. You insert it in a volume, in a virtual volume. There is a grid that starts from a top surface. Maybe the surface, the thickness of each layer is around 1/10 of a millimeter, depending on the type of material. A laser, which is the green light that you see, solidifies that section. The grid lowers itself. A pallet evens out the amount of material, and the process is repeated. So layer by layer, the grid lowers itself always more, and you have this part growing. Then the grid emerges, it drains all the excess liquid, and you have the three-dimensional component ready to be tested in the wind tunnel. We produce around 50,000 components a year, which is what you need to supply the wind tunnel with necessary parts to test every day.
And then using this method versus like a printing method makes sure it's smoother, and there's also more intricate parts.
There are a lot of different types of 3D printing. This is called stereolithography. The one you're talking about is more a deposit of material. This has a huge advantage in that the surface quality is exceptional. Plus the resins that we use are developed for this type of use. In fact, this is so high quality that the same technology on smaller machines are used for jewelry making, are used for teeth and stuff like that, that you need a very fine detail. Whereas there is also 3D printing with metal, which is deposited, and the surface finish is not as good, but it's extremely intricate what you can do, and very useful for other applications, obviously. So it depends on the application you choose the machine. This is the control room of the wind tunnel, which is built lower than the ground level in such a way that when you are seated here and you're operating the wind tunnel, you see the belt, which is a tapis roulant, which moves underneath the car, and you see if there is something on the belt, if a mechanic has forgotten a screwdriver, if the wheels are bouncing for whatever reason, and you can stop the wind tunnel before something happens. Otherwise, you access the wind tunnel through the big door on the back, and now you can see a strut in the center with a balance system. That is normally where the wind tunnel model is attached to. Everything goes down, and then the wind tunnel essentially is a big donut, a fan on one side and the test section on the other side. The wind goes around in circles, wets the car in this controlled area where it's nice and straight and uniform. You measure the forces on the balance, so the forces vertical, horizontal, and lateral. You translate those into coefficients of drag, downforce, and lateral forces. And at the same time, you measure, you have pressure tappings all around the model, the radiators you saw before, and this allows us to understand better the phenomenon around it. The black thing that you see there is a probe that we use to take point measurements around the wind tunnel model, and this is done in order to correlate the work here with the virtual world, because this is the experimental part. Then there is the virtual part, which is the CFD, computational fluid dynamics, where you see all the streamlines going around the wind tunnel. And you need to correlate the two very closely and continuously, and in order to have reliable results. Today, when aerodynamic work is done in a combination of the two. You do first the CFD, then you collaborate the CFD with the wind tunnel, which, like I said, is a sophisticated balance, and then you iterate between the two, depending on budget and time.
Wow.
So that's the black box is the balance. That is a balance with different strain gauges inside, and it measures in 3 directions. And then from there, you use a little bit of maths to derive all the various equations.
So then the wind goes from
there to there. The car is pointing that way.
So then what's the speed? How many kilometers per hour is the wind? Or it can be controlled?
It has to be controlled. It has to be controlled very, 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 very precisely. So at the end, you normally run at 50 meters per second. So it's 180 kilometers per hour. That's a lot of... That's the typical speed that you use.
Quite a lot of air being moved.
Yes.
So does it shake the building or anything?
No, it doesn't shake the building at the end.
Is it pretty loud?
It is pretty loud. When you're in a test room, you talk with the same volume of voice that we're using now. So it's from a noise pollution point of view, the people working inside there is not a problem. Obviously, if you're there, you hear the noise, but it's not something deafening from that point of view. Wow. And in 10 minutes, quarter of an hour, you are from standstill, doors open, to doors open again, and the same situation, and you've done the run. So I told you would be amazed today.
I don't know what to say.
Now, it's $100 for a ride.
That's it?
It lasts 30 seconds. No, so this is a professional driving simulator. So what does it do? Inside, you can see there is a chassis, a real chassis of a car. And what happens is that you insert the actual chassis that you want to use. You have a multi-body, multi-physics model, which has to be done before, and it's the big job. That represents all the car, how the car is behaving, the tires, the engine, the electrical part, everything. And a driver goes inside. We have a 180-degree screen that replicates the track. We have scans of the track, which are laser scans of the track. On that, we overimpose all the images, which are very, very realistic, because they have to have the same reference points. No? When you arrive at the corner, you have a reference point for braking, sure, the bumps, everything. So everything is super realistic. The volume that is available is the volume that the capsule needs to move, because this now is resting. Otherwise, it reaches up, and then it starts moving, because you replicate all the various positions. So this is the volume that you need for this moving around.
Oh my God.
And then obviously you have the noise, the stereo, because you have to replicate the engine noise, you have to replicate everything. You have to replicate the position, so you have the actual tub. And here we use this to develop the car before the car is built.
Wow.
So saying you don't know, you see a wind tunnel result which gives average numbers which are better, but pitch sensitivity which is worse. So you get the results from the wind tunnel, you plug them into here, and you see whether the driver prefers less pitch sensitivity and less overall numbers, or more pitch sensitivity but more better overall numbers. And it depends, because if the car is too nervous, you won't drive it. Sure. And so it depends on the type of car. You want to look at different ride heights, different design setups, different weight distributions. You can do everything by changing numbers on the multi-physics multi-body model, and then replicate it before actually having to design the car, build the car, go to the track, test the car, then change the center of gravity of a car. On finished car is impossible.
This is it's just so insane, because it's like a one-stop shop for everything.
Yes,
in terms of,
except the engine, which we don't do engine development, for example, but the rest, yes. Okay. It's a way of understanding mistakes and of improving them. Sure. But you do 10 mistakes to do something which is a big improvement.
Well, also really to push the limit of what's possible.
Yeah, so you have all the virtual parts is always inexpensive ways of making mistakes.
So then, question, do you have a set of drivers? Do you have like professional drivers on standby here every day to jump in?
We have some engineers that have a driving pedigree, so that they do a first step of, then depending on the client that is inside, because maybe they have their own drivers. God. Otherwise, we have drivers on standby that we call, and they come and test for us.
Do you know?
Blown away. This is. I keep telling you, I'm becoming more and more proud of being Italian as I get through this trip.
Yeah, this trip it's just leveling up how Italian you are.
Yeah.
And also, I love that. I mean, this is something that is all new to you too.
Yeah, you hear companies like Dallara, but you don't really realize how deep they are in the industry, in the motorsport world. And just hearing the last 5 minutes, I'm just like in awe. Like, oh my God, we're literally at the center of it all.
Yeah.
Right here. It's incredible.
So this is the main headquarters. Upstairs are the offices, and we go into the production area. These are old wind tunnel models of the first wind tunnel that we put them back in shape, and we put them here for display. But the first, you remember the red cars? This is.
So these are made out of wood then?
Yes, handmade out of wood.
So I have a question for you. How long have you been with the company?
27 years, 6 years, 26 years, going for 27.
So then you've been working pretty closely with Mr. Dallara.
Very closely, yes.
What does he feel, what does he think now? I mean, it's become so, it's just changed so much. And
it's changed incredibly, but it's stayed the same in the basics. So the wanting to innovate always, to learn something new always, and to put yourself in question to try and do better. Those main parts are always been the same. The humbleness also in the way we work also has stayed the same. So the curiosity, the community, and the humbleness probably have always stayed the same. In fact, we then put these values on ground really, and they became our values that we try and keep in the company.
Does he still come around here?
The car you saw parked outside when we came out of Dallara is his car. So on
he's always
Saturdays, he's also here.
Oh, really?
Yes. He's
Amazing.
always present.
Amazing.
And very on top of things. And very, very, with a fantastic foresight and always curious.
It's so cool because he was so forward thinking, all those years ago, starting all of this. With all of this new technology, with AI and everything, he's just like adopted it.
Yes,
Even
absolutely.
At his age now, he's just adopted everything.
He's not afraid of trying things, of making mistakes. Just trying to make mistakes in an intelligent way. Like I said, try and make it as inexpensive as possible.
And what blows me away is also, this is going to sound so stupid from somebody like myself, who's more just the outside observer.
Yes.
My job since the beginning of photographing cars and racing, unknowingly, I photographed, who knows, hundreds of thousands of pictures of Dallara built cars. Carbon fiber as a material, it's just the name, you call it carbon fiber, and it's so simple to explain it this way, but it's just so beyond that. I mean, there's just so many different types of carbon
uses,
fiber.
Absolutely.
And on top of that, it's like you guys are so forward thinking. You're potentially even working on the next thing.
Yeah, we're trying to. At least we're trying to work on the next things. Okay, so this is the ramp, which has a little bit of history of Dallara, of the Dallara products in time. We start off with one of the most recent products, which is the bicycle we did for Alessandro. I remember in the winter I told you about when we did the development of this bicycle in Dallara. We built the bicycle from a chassis point of view, and we developed the position with Alessandro in the winter. Today, we built the Z-Bike, which is a bicycle for handicapped people, and it's a commercial bicycle for handicapped people. That's for his water.
That's just the water?
That's the water bottle.
Amazing. Oh, this is so cool.
And this
is the actual one or a prototype one?
No, this is the actual one. This is the actual one he used in London, with which he won the Olympics in London.
And it's just sitting here.
And we built it for him, and he gave it to us, because then we built another one for Rio.
Wait, so what is this doing here?
We started off with a car which Dallara didn't do as a company, but Gianpaolo Dallara did as an engineer. Gianpaolo Dallara was a technical director of the Miura project. So this is very much Dallara, but that was Dallara before Dallara. And so this is owned by engineer Dallara and completely refurbished by Lamborghini. So in their old car department, historic car department. And it starts here because everything started here. Gianpaolo Dallara started off his career through Lamborghini, Ferrari, De Tomaso, and he was the technical director of this car. Then we go through a little bit of history of Dallara as a company. This is the first Dallara. So this is the first sports car, and you start to see the genius of engineer Dallara. The rules said that you needed at least 2 seats. So he put a seat in the center for weight distribution and 2 small seats on the side. So that at the end you are not offsetted with the weight on one side.
Because you could sit there if you wanted to, right?
You need to be very, very slim. And then you have a series of cars. Dallara started off by doing a lot of consultancy work. So X19, the Beta Monte Carlo, the track version. We did Lancia Stratos, LC1 and LC2 sports cars, Lancia. Those are all cars that Dallara helped out in the engineering of those cars. We have the Trans Am. Gilles Villeneuve drove this car. This back in the late 70s, and it used to do the Trans Am Championship in the States. Here we have a bit of history. So the first Formula 3. Formula 3 was the backbone of Dallara. It's what allowed Dallara to grow. We first did Formula 3. We had first success in Formula 3, and then from there we grew. Our shoulders were big enough to start doing other stuff like the SP333 for Ferrari, like the Indy World, where then we grew even more. So everything started off with the Formula 3, and this is the first Formula 3.
What year is this one?
This is 1980. Yes, 1980. And then we started adding carbon fiber to the Formula 3. And this red car here is probably one of the most important cars in the Dallara history, because this is the Formula 3 of 93, I think. 93. And it's the Formula 3 that really allowed Dallara to grow, because we started winning in the UK. And the UK Championship, the British Formula 3, was the place to be. It was where all the drivers, all the important drivers that then went to become Formula 1 world champions, they used to race there. And that car is what really changed the balance, and we started winning consistently. And now it's a monomake series, Formula 3, which now races together with the Formula 1 and the Formula 2 are all Dallara. Here we see the evolution of the Formula 3 until this car here, which is the car from 2018. In a similar way to the development of the Formula 3, we have the development of the Formula 2, which started off with the GP2 cars and then developed into the modern Formula 2s. Here we have the history of Formula 1. So, 1998, 99, IndyCar. Back then it was called Indy Racing League. This is the car that won the Indy 500 for the first time for Dallara. Since then, we won it 23 times, sorry. And it is 25 years ago. No, 26 now. This year is 26 years ago. Then this is the car with which we had more success. This is the car that actually tipped the balance up to a certain point where all the cars in IndyCar were Dallara. Now it's become a monomake series, and this is the current car running in the States doing the Indy 500. In this configuration, this is not the Indy 500 configuration, this is the configuration for what they call the short ovals, so 1 mile ovals. Whereas that car there has the Indy configuration.
Oh my God, the Super Formula car.
Then obviously you have Super Formula, which are all Dallara since the beginning of when the Super Formula era started. And behind you have the history of Formula 1 in Dallara. So Formula 1 in Dallara, as a company, we started off in '88 with this car, with Scuderia Italia. And today we collaborate extensively with Haas in Formula 1. This also is where my racing career started.
Oh, you used to?
I was 13 years old, and my job was cleaning the rims and carrying the packets of cigarettes to the mechanics. That was my first job in motorsports.
What a job!
Because my father was the team manager of this car. And so I used to go to the races, and I used to be a pain in the ass to all the mechanics. And so my job was to get dirty with the rims and go and collect the cigarettes, as we were a Marlboro sponsored car. That's insane. And so that's where my racing started. I was 13 years old then.
You didn't have a choice. You were going to be in the racing industry no matter what. Yes.
And you can see the evolution from 1988 to 2000, and I think this is a 2018. Yes, 2018 car, the complexity of the aerodynamics, the dimension of the cars.
So is this a real chassis?
Yes, absolutely. This is a real car.
This is not a development car.
No, this is the real chassis that we did for Haas in 2018.
Talking about complexity.
Yes.
Wait, so then
the rules change every year and the complexity changes, but the level of detail of these cars is incredible.
So, but this one is retired.
Yes.
And that's why it's sitting here.
Yes. Every year, essentially, the cars retire in Formula One, if not every half a year.
Right. Just
Yes, just because
down to the littlest things.
Yes.
I mean,
well, you can see this is a real car because it has wear. It's been
Right.
used.
wow.
Formula E is another project where we are extensively part of. So we do the Formula E's, both the old generations and the newest generation of cars are all Dallara as a chassis. And then the powertrains and everything are done by others. And then the other world that we are very strong at is Le Mans.
Yeah.
So back there you have a Le Mans car, 2000, 2001. And with this car, we won the first time our Daytona 24 Hours. And then from there, we continued developing sports cars. This is the Cadillac that won Daytona. In the last 7 years, I think I won it four times.
This, honestly, for me, this was the most interesting story for the 24-hour Le Mans. I mean, I think for so many people, because
the
it was
team
just
was
so
great because the drivers were amazing. Button, world champion, Rockefeller won everything that there is with closed wheels. Johnson, God knows how many races he won with these cars. So at the end, the team was very good. The car behaved really well. It went fast. It did the 24 hours. It was a big success story.
all things I expected to see today. Did not expect to see this. So cool. And
And
then
then
now
there is this. And we will see this extensively when we go to the factory where we build these cars. But this is the first working prototype that we did and presented to Gianpaolo Dallara on the day of his 80th birthday.
What?
And the car was born through Gianpaolo Dallara's philosophy of having something simple, of having something emotional. So the car is born without doors and without a windscreen, without a roof. Then you can add a windscreen, which is removable, plug and play by the client, a T-frame, and you have a targa, and the doors you have a complete coupe. So the clients, and you can add a wing at the back. So the clients can play around with. They buy one car, they have four essentially.
So how many have you made? How many have you
Up
created?
to now, we are close to 300 cars built out of the 600 that we will build because it's a limited series of 600 cars.
What is it like to drive this? It's like a race car for the street.
In a few hours' time, you could have a drive if you want.
I keep getting surprised today. I mean, every 5 minutes I'm surprised. Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to support us directly, go to LarryChenPrints.com. I print and sign every single one of these. This is the perfect gift, or it's the perfect piece of art for your wall.